Hello, I am Damonous. Thanks for joining. Wanted to talk about what happened just the other day with General Michael Flynn resigning as National Security Advisor to President Trump. This was a very short tenure, I think the shortest ever, as has been said in the news here. Um, and the circumstances are, again, as ridiculous and overblown, I think, as they were during some of the claims during the election period. This whole concept that there's Russian involvement and Russians are directing Trump's presidency, it's a clear, in my mind, a very clear plot by the liberal left to actually delegitimize Trump's presidency and essentially to knock people off one by one, right? And I think General Flynn is the first of those. So in here, New York Times article, interesting statement here. It says, Russia reacts. And it says Leonid Slutsky, the Foreign Relations Committee chairman in the Russian state, said Tuesday that he sees the accusations surrounding Michael Flynn's resignation as an attack on Russia, and that relations with the United States continue to be on thin ice. And one thing that's pretty clear in my mind is that President Trump really wants to try and have a world where we can exist with Russia again, like we used to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? This is just kind of ridiculous that suddenly Russia is our enemy as if it was 1970 again or 1950. From General Flynn's own resignation letter, he basically says, unfortunately, because of the fast pace of events, I inadvertently briefed the vice president and others with incomplete information regarding how he had spoken to the Russians in late December on the day that former President Obama added sanctions and expelled Russian diplomats from the United States of America, all for the supposed election interference. This was all related to the unsubstantiated information about there being Russian involvement in the hacking of the DNC, which is not a government agency, see my other video. Also, persons not directly related to our government. What hasn't got a lot of publicity is Flynn, in his own words, and this was in his final press briefing, a daily briefing at the White House. And in here, Flynn said he crossed no lines, all right? And also he made the point, and this is, hopefully this is becoming very apparent to even people that maybe are not, that are kind of balanced, let's say. They're not full-on Trump fans, but they're not full-on liberals. Let's take a look at this here. All these leaks that are coming, these phone calls of the Australian, Trump's dealing with the Australian Prime Minister, other Prime Ministers, all these other calls. Where would you possibly get this information except from, perhaps, NSA, which we know is spying on everyone's phone calls and electronic communications since the Bush era, or some other agency, FBI or whatever. It has to be something external, a presidential phone call between one foreign entity and the President of the United States, or in this case, the National Security Advisor. Those are very secure lines, and that's even said here by Flynn. He says, in some of these cases, you're talking about stuff that's taken off of a classified system and given to a reporter. That's a crime, Flynn said. And the thing that I really want to point out here, though, is he actually says what he had done in the call. So he insists he crossed no lines. If I did, believe me, the FBI would be down my throat. My clearances would be pulled. There were no lines crossed. Flynn said there was a brief discussion of the 35 diplomats who were being expelled by Obama in retaliation for Moscow's alleged interference in the 2016 campaign. It wasn't about sanctions. It was about the 35 guys who were thrown out, Flynn said. So that's what it turned out to be. It was basically, look, I know this happened. We'll review everything. I never said anything such as we're going to review sanctions or anything like that. So I think what I really want people to think about here, and to really think about strongly and deeply, is what would you prefer right now? Whether you're liberal or conservative, what do you really prefer? If you're really looking at the facts, if you're really thinking about this, would you prefer what happened and in some way tried to settle the Russians down and say, hey, I can't talk about this now. We're going to be in office in a couple weeks, 3 weeks. We'll review it all again at that time. Would you rather have that have happened than a man who essentially put his neck out there a little bit and just said, hey, calm down. We'll look at it again. We really want this to work. Or would you rather that Russia be in a state of active war with the United States right now? We have pushed Russia so far in the last couple years and more. If you really look at what's happening behind the scenes and not just watch what the late night news is trying to tell you, the real world is much different. So the thing that I want to just say is, who's the real hero? And I really feel that our country right now is in sincere peril. Not from Trump, not from Trump, but from those unwilling to observe the results of the election, those unwilling to allow democracy to run its course, those wanting open borders in our country, allowing anyone to come in, including those who don't hold our ideals. What we have here is a power base in Washington that is very upset with the whole situation. They wanted their hero, Hillary Clinton, to come in and give us another 4 years of the 8 years of Obama and the 8 years of Bush and the 8 years of Bill Clinton. That didn't happen. And I see now more than ever, and I believe now more than ever, that President Trump is for real in wanting to actually defend the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And it's been a long time since we've had a president like that. So we need to support this. Those who are conservative, those who are on that side of protecting the United States, I'm just saying here now, stand up, be ready, and really add to the defense of what's happening. Because if Trump is for real, I'm going to use the if again, but if he is for real, and this is someone, a president of the United States, actually trying to fight for our country, make it safe again, make it actually strong in the world and economically strong, and get rid of the bad deals that have been done to us, and that there's some heavy forces, economic, internal forces, riding against that with everything that they have. You've seen the rallies, you've seen the liberals out there all the time. We as conservatives may have to do the same thing. We may have to call our congressman every other day, every day, whatever it takes. We need to make sure that we are setting the tone along with the person who is leading. As long as he is leading justly, and by justly, I'm meaning justly under the Constitution of the United States, but most of all, under God, I think it is our duty, is our civic duty, to do more than we have ever done before in the past. Things like this, General Flynn, I think he was probably heroic in this state. Yeah, maybe he kind of fudged it, right? He should have told some people. Who knows what we'll find out. But I'll tell you this, in my opinion, even if President Trump at some point said, hey, I want you to talk to the Russians and ease this over because I want us to have a world where we can work together with the Russians and get rid of radical Islamic terrorism and right the wrongs that have been done to both of our countries for the longest time. If that's the reality, that's heroic too. We need to change our thoughts. We need to change our thinking and stop being led by the mainstream media, which has been destroying our country, helping its destruction for so many years.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Catch me on patreon.com with exclusive content and on minds.com with abbreviated content.